Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. This is my first webinar in what I call it the new era, a new age. I hope that you guys are doing well. Welcome. Welcome to this webinar on managing strategic reviews. I want to welcome each and every one of you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And definitely we are at Meirc, webinars are not a strange thing, but we're conducting it in strange times. So thank you for taking the time to be with us. I hope that you learn a lot. I'm sure that you are investing time today to basically acquire new skills or learn something new. My name is Jamal Saeed, and I will be conducting this webinar on managing strategic reviews. We will be together for almost an hour. So, thank you so much for taking the time. Definitely, we are all of us living and experiencing an interesting era, I would say. And I think managing strategic reviews plays to that in the sense that if you are a company and you have a strategy, reviewing your strategy on a regular basis would help you react better to market realities, I would say. Now, definitely, this particular situation we're in, which is the coronavirus situation, probably took many people by surprise. But some companies, quite funny, they planned well for it. Despite all of the difficulties, they managed to plan. So did they do it through strategic reviews or something else? I cannot say. We will find out more about how they managed to survive. But one thing is that a lot of companies, including those that you are working for or you own, are experiencing something completely new, including Meirc ourselves. So anyway, let's go ahead and start our journey today. The main thing, my dear friends, is to stay healthy and to always take care of yourself. And let's get through this situation together. Again, thank you for being with us today. I know that you're investing this 1 hour, so let's take full advantage of it. So the thing about strategic reviews is it's an interesting segment in company operations, and many companies use it quite a bit. They use it quite a bit, but not too many companies. Based on my experience coming from corporate world and now working with Meirc Training and Consulting, I find that many companies just, give a lip service to strategic reviews, but they keep running the same thing over and over again. So why should we conduct strategic reviews? I think they add lots of values. So here we go. So we're going to be talking for an hour. Again, my name is Jamal Saeed. I'm a partner with Meirc. And this is, as I said, it's a very interesting topic, but I will quickly cover the company, what we do and everything, and then we take it from there. So just give me a couple of minutes just to introduce the company. For those of you who are with us for the first time, you get to know who Meirc are. Believe it or not, we are going through major change ourselves. So I will talk about these changes as I introduce the company. So the company is more than 60 years old, an amazing company, quite honestly. And we were founded in Beirut, as you can see here. Now we're based in Dubai, and we also have a sister company called Plus Training. And just by the way, before I go too far into my my presentation, I would like you to remember that I can send you a PDF copy of this presentation if you like it. My email is going to be provided at the end. So please make sure that you send me an email and say, listen, Jamal, I'd like to have a copy. So all of this information will be available for you. So as you can see here, Meirc has made up of two companies, the original company and Plus Training. And, we are in the business of consulting and training. Here's a quick view of the company, vision, mission, and the values that we stand for. Of course, this is where we have our different, you can say, portfolios of products. We give more than 300 courses. Many of them are public courses. Some of them are on the in-house side. And interesting enough, I said I'm going to share with you something new, is that we have also launched our online business. We're trying to accommodate and we're trying to adapt to new realities. Until we pick up the public courses and in-house courses again, we are working with our participants and the companies and our partners to work online. So it's an interesting experience, very, very fast-paced experience. You can say it is a very steep learning curve for all of us. But funny enough, we're doing very well. And I'm very proud of the team here at Meirc, how we are responding to these new realities. And I hope you like the products that we have already announced. So check our website, please. You're going to see that we have lots of online courses, and we have launched a few. And please register for it. And we have courses, whether it is public courses, whether it is in-house and self-paced. So this is something you can learn on your own. So again, it's adapting to the new realities. And I'm sure that you and your company are always doing that. And I'm sure we're going to live through this and we're going to come out stronger. So who is the facilitator talking to you? My name is Jamal Saeed. I'm with Meirc since August 2012. But I have an interesting background. I don't come from a traditional training background. I come from a corporate environment, leadership and management background, operations background. I've worked for Pepsi and as an IT capacity. I worked for Sun Microsystem in leadership operations capacity, and Cisco and Sun Microsystem, I also worked in sales capacity. So I have an interesting background where it got me exposed to so many things in the market. But I tell you one thing, and you can take that to heart, that I never underestimated the value of strategic reviews. Whenever we had an opportunity to do a strategic review, we engage with the management, telling them how important, how the market is changing. And because this is a moment where you engage with your management, with your leaders, to tell them what's going on, so the company adopts, changes, and reflects the new realities of the market. But this strategic review is very important. So what we will do right now is we're going to take you through some of the slides that are critical. And as I mentioned, you can have a copy of this set of slides or deck of slides toward the end by just sending me an email, and we'll make sure that you get it. At Meirc, I cover many things. I cover the topics of leadership and management. I cover sales and marketing. I also work on people management, communication. So I have a distinct background. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send across. I'll be more than happy to have a quick chat with you. So moving on to the next slide, basically what we're going to cover in this webinar. I like to cover a few things. I like to share with you some information. One is we like to cover how to build a solid understanding around the role of strategic review. So why do we have it? And then I like to also have help you establish a clear idea on what goes into a strategic review process, because it is a process. And I like the word process because if you put a process, you put steps behind it, and based on those steps, you can fix things. Okay, and we'll look at that process in a minute. Also, I like you to recognize and develop key competencies to prepare yourself for strategic review. And believe it or not, you have to be very good at strategic reviews because there are lots of logistics goes into it, lots of interaction goes into it. So you have to be ready. And you have to be a very good listener, very good facilitator. So we're going to cover these things. And of course, how to prepare and manage a successful strategic review. I would like you to manage a successful strategic review. At the end of the day, how to evaluate outcomes. Because out of these strategic reviews, some things is going to come out. And this is very important. Remember, if you go into the strategic review as you have went in, you have not done anything. You have just wasted an hour, 3 hours, maybe a day. So it's very important that you really get outcomes out of this one and take actions and follow up on these things. So this is pretty much what the objective of the webinar will be. I'd just like to remind you that all our courses, they are backed by blended learning. So whenever you take a course with us, we also give you access to some wonderful online material, and I hope that you can take advantage of that. I'd love to hear from you. Should you, at the end of the webinar, feel that you like to engage with us and attend our courses, you can send it to meirc@meirc.com. meirc@meirc.com, or send it to me directly. I'll be more than happy to pass it on to the right individuals. So here we go, my dear friends. We're going to go an introduction into strategic review. Now, one of the key things that I usually do in my webinars is I like to quiz you. And I like to quiz you so this way you participate as well. And this means that we keep you engaged with us. Now, an interesting question came from Fatima. Fatima, how are you doing? And Fatima is asking, what's the impact of COVID-19 on the economy? I'll be more than happy to answer that one offline, but definitely the impact has been very big, as you can see, Fatima. And I hope that strategic review can help you lessen the impact, as they say. So let's go into this one. So are you ready for the question? Here's the first question. I'm going to ask you the first question, and here it is. The question is, strategic reviews can be known by some other names: business performance reviews, data-driven reviews, strategic reviews, stat reviews, true or false. So now I'm going to give you the question. I'm going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to poll you. So here we go. There you go. Now, can you please answer the question? Strategic reviews can be shown by some other names: business reviews, performance reviews, data-driven reviews, strategic reviews, or stat sessions. True or false? That's what I would like to know, if it is true or false. I would like to welcome all of you. MashaAllah, we have very good audience today. Welcome, Rana. Welcome, Philomena. Mu'taz, welcome. We have Taysir. Taysir, welcome back, buddy. Good to see you. You are with us. Ali is with us as well. Azza as well. Dan is with us as well. So welcome to all of you. If I don't call your name, please forgive me. But it's such a pleasure to have you with us today. So now we have a few people who have answered. In light of the time, don't be upset if I don't need to cut you off, but if I stop the voting simply because we have to move on. So right now we have a few people who have participated. I'll give 5 seconds, 10 more seconds, just to make sure that for those of you who might be wondering about it, give you a chance to answer. So now I'm gonna end the voting. All right, and I'm gonna share with you. So for those of you who answered yes, I would like to say well done. Because yes, it can be known by many names. It can be known by many names. So I'm gonna stop sharing with you right now. I'm gonna go back to my presentation. Yeah, and in my presentation, you can have all of these names. That's so true. So now, very important that in the strategic, whenever we talk about a strategic review, very important that we ask the following question. Now, this question is very, very critical. Are we doing things right? You see, the thing about strategy is you put the strategy, but when do you know if the strategy is working? When you implement it. So the strategy is good. It gives you direction. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a goal. It gives you a vision. However, you can only know if you're doing things right if you ask the question, once you start implementing it, are we doing things right? This means that based on the results and the KPIs that you have put in place for your strategy, you should be seeing some numbers and some statistics. And you know, today we are seeing so many statistics. There are so many people who are frustrated. There are so many people who are saying that we don't have enough equipment. Are saying that we have so many issues with this and that. It tells you that some of the countries or governments or companies who have put strategies, maybe their strategy was not good enough. So there you go. Whenever we put a strategy, we need to put it to the test. But putting it to the test, we can know more about the implementation by this strategic review. Now, in light of the crisis that we're going through, strategic review can be done on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, as you can imagine. Every day we're finding out what's going on. But when things are normal, we are not in a crisis. The periods of the strategic review might vary, and I will share with you some of the timings around it. But when you have a crisis, my dear friends, definitely, you're gonna have it on a regular basis, like what's happening right now on TV. When you turn on the TV, you will see somebody talking about what's going on and everything on a daily basis. That's a strategic review. People are trying to find out, and people interact and engage and everything. And hopefully we engage in a positive way for us, all of us, to come out from this crisis. Now, that being said, the next slide, I would like to mention the following, that many organizations, they hold strategic reviews, but they fail to execute it. Remember what I said. In my lifetime and in my experience, I have seen many, many companies, and some of them I worked for. They go through strategic reviews, but they don't do anything. So actually what's happening is you are wasting between a month to 3 months putting a strategy together, and then you go back to your old habits and you conduct things the way that you conducted a year back, 2 years back, 3 years back. And that's not good. However, there are always exceptions. And these are the exceptions. These are the companies that run a strategy, and then they run strategic review in a very passionate way. They say, how are things going? What can we do to fix? And they actually have fantastic meetings that can make a difference in the life of the company and the success of the company. So this takes us to the next slide, where I talk about what are strategic reviews then. Well, to ensure the success and productivity of strategic reviews, you need leadership buy-in. So one of the key things is that you need leaders to stand behind the strategic review. This means that they believe in it. This means that they attend it. You got my point, is that when a leader calls for a strategic review, he or she is sitting in the room asking questions, challenging people. Why are we doing this? What do you think we should do that? So there is a buy-in. And you also need specific steps to deliver the desired strategic results, because out of the strategic review, you need some outcome, new ideas, new direction, new reshaping a goal. So in order to do that, you need to see, can we define a process? So one of the key things is strategic review needs a process. The second thing is that you need to focus on is for the meeting preparation. And funny enough, today we live very much into, as I said, a new era where most of these meetings are happening virtually, like what we're doing right now. All of us are on a virtual meeting. You are listening to me pretty much most of the time, but when we go into a meeting, a real meeting, people will talk to each other, and probably you have attended some of these meetings already. So you have to prepare that meeting, whether it is physical, all of you in one room, or virtual, where everybody is sitting in their home or their office or international office and they're calling in. So you have to prepare for the meeting. Now, the third element is the meeting itself, when the meeting is taking place. So remember, you have the process, you have the meeting preparation, and then you have the meeting taking place. When the meeting takes place, it's a very interesting experience, because you want to make sure that the right people are engaging, you're taking minutes, people are taking rest, people are taking a break, you are listening. So this is a very critical moment. All the effort that you're putting pays off in this meeting. Once you have the meeting done, you have to do some follow-ups, because the meeting comes up with some action items. For example, I might ask Sophia, you have to do this. I might ask Nada, you have to do that. Or I ask Maharuf, you have to do that. So as you can see, there is follow-up, especially when we have changes in our action plans or strategies or direction that we're working on. And the last one is very, very important, is how do you maintain momentum? You have to maintain the momentum. This means that you have to maintain the drive out of these action items. So I might do follow-ups. So where are you? How are you doing? What do you need help? This is very, very critical. Now, with that in mind, I would like you to remember the following, that whenever we talk about strategic review, you have some common things. You have something in common in strategic review. So one is a meeting focused entirely at a strategic review is a meeting focused entirely on strategy. Jamal, what do you mean by that? You see, sometimes when you go into strategic review, you end up talking about daily activities. That's not the intention of strategic review. The intention of strategic review is how to direct a company in a new direction if needed, how to check if the strategy is working if needed, how to change goals if needed. We're not there to fix a small problem here and there. It's not for side discussions. I'm sorry. It's about how to make sure that we are fixing the strategy and driving it in the right way. So one of the things about strategic review, they have to happen regularly. For example, once a quarter. Some companies do it every month. And as I said, in terms of crisis, some companies do it, on a daily basis or a weekly basis. They also focus on data. What does it mean? This means that companies, they have the right KPIs in place. When they start implementing their strategy, their KPIs are telling them, their key performance indicator are telling them what's going on. So it's very important that you know the progress based on data, not on he said that, she said that. And then you also have, what are we trying to accomplish through our strategic goal? This is a very important question. You see how the mindset changes in a strategic review. And then last but not least is you have to provide insight. Insight means that honest opinion on do we have the right goals in place, and how can we perform, and how can we make our goals perform better. You see how important it is to have a strategic review. One thing that I really like is that when the COVID-19 visited us, many countries conducted lots of strategies. But I have to tip my hat for the UAE, United Arab Emirates, the country where we are based. And I tell you, that's what they do. Every day, the leadership sits down and they do a strategic review. How are we doing? Are we doing enough? What else can we do? It's an amazing effort that this country is putting. And I hope that many countries look into the effort of the UAE and they understand how to run a proper strategy to fix the situation we're in. And by the way, we're not done yet. Even if we fix it today in the UAE, when we open the borders, we have to also think further down the road. How are we going to engage with other countries to stop the flow of the virus? You see how strategic that is. So now, we talked about the things that are in common. But what else I need to focus on? These are two beautiful questions. These are wonderful questions. When we have strategic review, two important things that you have to distinguish. Are we doing the right thing? Rather than, are we doing things right? So, are we doing the right thing? This is the big question. Are we doing the right thing? Are we heading in the right direction? Doing things right, what does it mean? Am I applying the daily tasks on a regular basis? So when we're looking at doing things right, I'm doing my task. But when I'm doing the right thing, this is strategic. This is leadership. This is directional. So this means that you have to really change your mindset. I'll give you a story. I heard the story on Dubai Eye, and I loved the story. There was an interview with a very interesting restaurant here in Dubai. It's called Sticky Rice. And Sticky Rice prides themselves on, the quality of Thai food they provide, and the quality of the service in the restaurant. And like many companies, all of a sudden with the coronavirus around visiting us, they couldn't deliver. They couldn't accept customers anymore. That was very sad for all of us, who went through this interesting experience. So now they had to ask the questions: are we doing the right thing? Well, definitely they're doing the right thing, but the food is not going out of the restaurant anymore. So what did they do? They engaged a very interesting company. They managed to move them online within one day. And they started accepting orders. You see what happened with the strategic review? The owner of the restaurant sat down with his team. He said, are we doing the right thing? Because we're not selling. They said, how about if we go online? Yes, my dear friends. There are lots of people that still haven't gone online. And that's fine, because hopefully when we go back, things will go back to normal. But for them, that was a do or die. Are we doing things? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing? What a wonderful question. So remember, this is what matters. This one, the big one, are we doing the right thing? Yes, we can discuss on the sideline, are we doing things right? But in a strategic view, you have to ask, are we doing the right thing? So that being said, this means that strategic review gives the organization an opportunity to stop and look at the data, to analyze things, to look at the decisions we have taken, and can we do a course correction? And because it's so easy to get caught up with day-to-day operations issue. And sometimes you get so caught up that you lose sight of the bigger goal. You see, that is why strategic review brings you back to reality and helps you look at the bigger goal. That is why strategic review is so important, because it takes you away from the day-to-day and lets you focus on the bigger picture. That is why this is an important task. Now, that being said, so with strategy at the center, of your business, your measures reflect your strategic priorities, not just the common measures of the industry you're in. So it's measuring your strategic KPI. I call them SKPI. Okay, not OKPI. Strategic KPI, SKPI are more involving, bigger. OKPI or operational KPI are on a daily basis what's going on. It also ensures the full execution of the projects and initiatives rather than concentrating on just the budget. So instead of focusing on we spent here and we spent there, you start looking at the execution from a bigger picture. Okay, so I have some questions coming in, and I want to thank for all of you for sharing that, and thank you, Ali, for your input. I appreciate that. Now, with that said, what are some of the benefits of strategic review? First of all, it facilitates the identification and subsequent adoption of opportunities for improvement. This means that can we improve things? Okay. Second, you identify winning and struggling areas. For example, you may have launched a product. That product is not working very well, so you have to make some amendments. That's a strategic direction for you. You may have a very good product that's doing very well, so you learn from this launch and say, what have we done? You may have an initiative that's doing very well. It also helps department work collaboratively. You see this middle one is so important, my dear friends. It also helps companies work collaboratively. And one thing that the coronavirus has raised the awareness is that we have to collaborate. And that is why collaboration is very important, and strategic review gives you that opportunity. Why? Let me tell you. Because in the meeting, when the meeting is taking place, you have all the department heads. And if you want to succeed, one hand is not enough. All of us have to put our hands together. So the leader of the company and the organization, what he or she is doing is saying, listen, we have this initiative, this project, so all of them collaborate to make it successful. And when one team is better than one person, in many situations, the team delivers faster results and bigger results. And then it improves transparency and accountability. Now that's a tricky one, my dear friends, because all of us sometimes feel a bit shy about saying something. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to disturb the water. Well, I disagree. I completely disagree. And the coronavirus situation has highlighted the fact how important it is to speak up. And if there's something I ask you to highlight and move on and take as a habit in your life, when you see something wrong, please speak up, because that's the only way to fix it. And then the last one is how to align resources and to make sure that we make informed budget decisions. Why? Because, my dear friends, nothing moves without a budget. So this is a lesson from real life. Nothing moves without a budget. So in the meeting itself, in the strategic review, there could be some very tough decisions how to divert your budget. This means that if something is very important for us that we did not pay attention to, you might say, you know what, we need to launch this initiative, and you might divert some money from Sofia to Rana, and so on and so forth. So this way you can get things moving, and it's very critical that you do that. Now, that being said, let me take you to the next slide. In the next slide, I would like you to remember one thing, that there are certain prerequisites for strategic review. One, the leadership in the organization should set the standards of what is acceptable and needs to lead by example. For example, if the strategic review is supported by the management, the first people in the room are the management. They are not late. They are always on time. They push for it. They ask for data. And that's a big difference from a management that does not care. Management that does not care, they say, you know what, yeah, you go in my place. You go in my place. It's no longer a strategic review. Because in the strategic review meeting, some interesting and delicate decisions are going to take place. So some prerequisites. One, well, if I want to have some prerequisites I'd like to share with you, you have to have the following things in place. One, you have to have a dedicated time. And my dear friends, it could be a full day. It could be 3 days. I have attended strategic reviews where some of them ended up about 3 days. And some of them are only an hour. Could be that it's a shorter one, but it's an hour or 2 hours. Second, willingness to learn a new process and approach. You have to come to this meeting ready to learn new things. This is an opportunity to be creative, change things, approach things differently. Because remember, Things may not be working, so you have to be creative. Third, you need the resources. Don't forget the resources. And number 4, engage leadership. Leadership has to be engaged. I used to have a very, very good GM in one of the companies. And at Meirc, I have a wonderful, wonderful leadership who's very engaged. They are excellent, excellent. Mr. Eid is one of those individuals who really drives us in our meetings very hard. However, in the previous company, I used to have a very interesting manager who would engage us in a very, very powerful approach. And I tell you one thing, it brings the best out of you. Engaged leadership brings the best out of its employees. So that's why in strategic review, it's an opportunity to engage the organization. Now that we covered the first, objective, I'd like to talk about the process now a little bit. So what is the process behind strategic reviews? Are you ready for the question? So here we go, the next question. I'm going to ask you the following. Determining the right attendees for the meeting is not important when defining the process for strategic review. True or false? Here comes the question, and I'm going to ask you, and here we go. Yeah. Let's see if you are going to answer this question, true or false. Determining the right attendees for the meeting is not important when defining the process of strategic review. Again, I will give you some time to make sure that we have maximum participation. Thanks for all of those who are engaging with us today. Well done. Wonderful. I know that some of you are listening from your iPhone or your Samsung smartphone. You might be, so I fully understand. Now, I'm going to give it, 5 more seconds, just in case some of you are catching up with this survey. And I'm going to now end the voting. All right, so don't get upset if you don't get the chance to vote. We still have 3 more questions. Maybe it will give you a chance to answer faster and quicker. So here we go. Now I'm going to share with you results. So I want to congratulate all of you. Well done. Well done. Determining the right attendees for a meeting is not important, not at all. It is very important. You have to make sure who is, attending the meeting. Now, I'm going to stop sharing this slide. I'm going to close this one. And now I'm going to go into my presentations again. So well done to all of you. I'm very proud of you. Now, notice the following slide. I love this slide. To ensure a successful strategic review, a clearly defined process is vital. This means, 1, determining the right attendees for the meeting. You see, it's number 1. Who's going to be in the meeting? Number 2, creating good information gathering process. You see, before you go to the strategic review, definitely you have the strategy already working. You have distributed at the beginning of the year, but now you want to see how things are working. So you have to have you have to have a powerful way to gather data. Okay? So creating good information gathering. You may have to send some surveys. Are we doing right? Are we doing wrong? Because when people gather and meet in the conference room, that's a chance to make decisions. It's a decision-making situation. So you might show charts, you might show trends. You see the importance of gathering information? So this means that you make sense of the meeting and you take full advantage of the meeting. Third one, ensure the meetings are timely based on the organization's goals, of course. So let's say that you are launching a project. You are launching a construction site. These are important that you have meetings that are timely and meets the organization's flow. So that is why it's very important that you have your meetings that match the organizational goals. If you are in a hospital, your strategic meetings are different than those if you are in a fast food industry, and so on and so forth. And then number 4 is getting the team to buy into the agenda and outcomes of the meeting. And I'd like you to think about it. If you are running this meeting, what would you do to engage the team and make sure that they attend with full passion? Oh, I'm going to leave this question for you to answer. And the last one is, how do you reduce the burden? Funny enough, people think that strategic review, it's 1 hour only. Do you know that for this 1 hour to be very successful, you may have to work 5, 6, maybe 15 days, and sometimes maybe 30 days. It's a strategic review. And if the meeting is for 3 days or 4 days, you may have to work for 3 months. Why? Because there are logistics, people coming back and forth and everything. So that is why it is very, very important that you don't underestimate the burden of the meeting. Ali, well done. Well done. What's in it for them? I like that question. Ali is answering the question, how do you make them engage? Thank you, Ali. This is very good of you. Thank you, sir. Now, what we need to do then in the fall is the following. Whenever you know who should be attending, let's try to answer that question, because I think it's very critical that we have the right people attending the course. One of the key things is getting the right team in place is extremely important, you know, because you would like to have the right people discussing the right issues. If a person there does not belong to the meeting, he or she is wasting your time. It's as simple as that. Number two is you need people who understand the organization and can speak with authority. Did you see that word authority there? And did you see the following word, get approvals? So this means that in that room, you need decision makers. You don't want people to leave the meeting without any decisions. You want the right people there. This means that our people are there to make decisions so that things move faster. And the third one is continuity in attendance is also critical. This means that the person who should be attending these meetings shows up to the meeting. He or she are there and discussing these meetings. What happens sometimes is some people don't like each other. Say, you know what, I don't like that guy, I'm not going to attend it. No, you are putting your personal preferences over the company preferences. If you don't go to the strategic meetings, you will lose your right to sit in that meeting. You see, I would like to repeat that word again. If you don't go to the strategic review meeting, you will lose your right to be in that meeting, because that's a strategic review, critical. Your voice is not heard, so you lose. Be there and make sure you participate, especially if you are a decision maker, and you have to put your personal interest on the side. Yes, you can discuss this project and bigger project, but make sure that you look at the company interest in this case. So now, that being said, I'd like to share with you the following slide. Look at this. So whenever you have asking for people to meet, the team will be more likely to include the CEO or the top guy, for example, the executive directors. If you are discussing a particular project, for example, we are launching a new product, a new construction site, a new website, a new service, something important to the company, then the people who are managing it should be there, because they have to present it and say how it's going. And they have to show the data, how it's, how are we doing? And they also have to make sure that, do we have the person who collected the data, can they speak sense into it? And make sure you have to have the right people, based on the agenda. So every agenda item should invite the people who are part of that agenda. And the agenda is put together either by yourself and you send it out, or you ask people to contribute to the agenda. And that's another interesting thing. That's what's in it for me, like Ali said. And so this is very important, that to engage people in that discussion. Remember, it's a very open, transparent discussion in that room. Now, that being said, what I like to do is the following. I like to share with you the following. So on the other hand, there are few reasons people shouldn't be invited to strategic review. And here's something you have to remember. Here's a list of the criteria where some people could be the wrong people. So don't invite someone at the wrong level of your organization. If you have top guys, don't involve somebody who is very, very young or very junior, or you know what, send him on your behalf. You kill your image, you kill your position. Simply because if this meeting is strategic, right, send the right person. Maybe you have an emergency, but don't send a junior fellow. And make sure that the person that you send, whether it is Mu'taz or it is Hind, make sure that you empower them. Say, listen, you have to make a decision in my absence, but don't send anybody just to fill your seat. You will be leaving a very bad image about yourself. Second, don't invite someone who wouldn't know what's going on. They speak and people look at them and say, where did this guy come from? And the third thing is, don't invite someone who can't see the big picture. Send somebody, for example, you may send the head of the strategy to represent you. Why? Because the strategy guy sees what's going on. But don't send somebody from a separate division, a smaller division, to represent you simply because you like them. No, you have to send somebody who represents you. Okay? Now, I'm going to move a little bit faster. You're going to see that my pace is going to increase a little bit, simply because I want to make sure I give you a chance to reflect on these things as well. So the timing of strategic review. In general, quarterly strategic review should be held within 30 days of the end of the quarter. This means that if I am in January and I launch my strategy, I should be able to do it at the beginning of March to see how are we doing, or 15th of March, mid of March, and then take it from there. Every 45 days to 50 days, you roll that. It becomes a rolling meeting, and it has to be fixed in your agenda. Monthly strategic review could also be held within 10 days at the end of the month. For example, March 20th is my strategic review. Okay, some companies do it monthly. Some companies, they do it monthly. They do it the last week of the month. And some companies that are run very strategic or very critical mission, like we're doing right now. The coronavirus has forced on us critical mission every day. So they meet every day and discuss what's going on. But in normal situations, companies that are critical mission, they meet every month. At the end of the month, they meet and say what's going on, and then at the end of the next month, and so on. So they meet 12 times a year. While other companies that are not as mission critical, they meet 4 times a year and they discuss what's going on. So this is something very, very interesting. So getting things started, how do you go about it? Well, here are some tips to get things started with a strategic review. First of all, check the calendar of the executive team. Many executives, they fly all over the place. You know that. Well, today they are grounded, as we know, and we're giving the aviation industry a break. But when things go back to normal, many of them are going to travel. Second is, make sure that the top management is engaged with the process. This means that you can ask them, what is it that you want on the agenda? Third thing is that make sure that you set a common objective for each of the team members involved. So you might ask them, what is it that you like to talk about? You see the difference? You see, this is why people attend, when you give them a piece of the pie and let them get interested in it. And then, of course, on the fourth item is make sure that you include different departments in the meeting design. Tell them, listen, guys, I'm planning on a strategic review. What would you like us to do? Where would you like us to meet? At the end of the day, be realistic. There are a number of priorities you can cover. You cannot cover every priority. You have a limited number of minutes, of hours. You don't have the full year to have a strategic review. So you have to be realistic with respect to the time. Items that you have to cover. The number of minutes a person can talk. Imagine, sometimes you have to bring it down to how long a person can speak, because you don't have the luxury of time all the time. This means that in addition to what we talked before, is that you also have to remember that different types of meetings require different frequency. Because what do I mean by this? Well, look at the following slide. Here we go. For example, strategic review can be looked at from different perspectives. The first one is monthly, where you analyze performance and adjust initiatives. Did you see that? You analyze performance and adjust initiatives. This means that you are adjusting things here and there. On a quarterly basis, you are refining the strategy initiatives, and that's what I call a strategic review. The last one is the annual. This basically wrapping things up. You have the kickoff meeting at the beginning of the year to tell people what you want, but at the end, you want to tell people what we've done, what do we need to do for next year, what are we proposing in terms of budget. It's an amazing process. So you have the monthly one for analyzing little things, daily activities, weekly activities, quarterly to look more on the strategic side, and that's where this strategic review might fit in. And the last one is the big kahuna, the big strategic review, where you are talking about the past, what we learned, and looking into the future. So that is why it's very important to remember the following. Strategic review requires lots of work. First of all, you have to collect the data. You have to have the list. Sometimes you have to send certain forms electronically or paper-wise, but I prefer electronically, to fill them out and capture data. Second is the timeline, the contact list, and then, of course, certain... it seems that I have repeated myself, and I apologize for that. I'll fix that slide for you, because I know there's something, a repetition there. So as you can see, there are certain things you have to take care of when it comes to these things. Now, this takes us to the preparation of the meeting. Are you ready for our next quiz? So here we go. The next quiz talks about the following. When creating the agenda for a strategic review, you need to consider the following factors: the focus of the meeting, the operations of the meeting, any items to be added should be of value. True or false? Now I'm going to go to the question. I'm going to poll you on that question, and here we go. Please, when creating the agenda for a meeting or strategic review, you need to consider the following factors: the focus of the meeting, the operations of the meeting, any item to be added should be of value. Well done to all of you, and I want to thank all of you who are still hanging in there. So thank you very much for your engagement and support, and I hope that you are finding the information helpful. So again, I want to thank Abdul Ilah. Welcome back, Abdul Ilah. I want to thank Ibtisam as well. Welcome, Ibtisam, to our meeting. And then Fatima. Welcome, Fatima. Thank you guys for being with us. And Tohedur as well. Tohedur Zahman. Very good. Thank you for being with us. So I'm going to give you a couple more seconds just to make sure that everybody participates. So, and then I'm going to end the voting, show you the results. So as we said, when creating a strategic review, you need to consider the following factors. And these factors are important. So now I'm going to end the voting. I'm going to share with you the results. Okay, so I'm going to show you the results. So I want to thank you all for doing very well here. Yes, it is true. And the last item of particular importance, make sure that things are added. Whatever you add should be of value. So well done. So I'm going to stop sharing the results. I'm going to close this window, and I'm going to go back to my slides. So in my slides, so you did very well, you guys. This is fantastic. So preparing for the strategic review. To prepare for the strategic review, it requires certain things. First, the schedule for meeting time and collecting the necessary data, setting aside enough time to analyze the data, creating an agenda, meeting attendees in advance. That is very nice. I tell you, that's one of the best things. People lots of time underestimate the importance of meeting with people. Say, listen, what do you want to talk about? What are the things that we need to talk about? This is part of the preparation. And number 5, I like a lot, paving the path of success, starting with the first meeting by advising meeting participant exactly what the strategic review is all about. Do you know what I call this one? Whenever I run a course, I call this one setting the scene, setting expectations. There's nothing more important in my life that I have learned. Of course, communication is very important, but it's so important to set the expectations, my dear friends. And in strategic review, you have to set the expectations at the beginning. And then, of course, you have to establish a tone of trust, to collaborate, to adopt, and to fix problems. Trust is very important in the meeting. All right? So this is very important. Now, that being said, we go now to the next slide. In the next slide, once strategic review is put on the agenda, it's time to begin collecting data. And here are some of action steps to take as you begin preparing for the process. First, make the attendance mandatory. Of course, I'll give you, and you will agree with me for sure. You cannot send an agenda today and expect them to be in the meeting tomorrow. So normally, because it's so strategic, you tell people 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks ahead of time, because it's a strategic meeting, and this way they have it in their agenda. And anything that they have in their agenda that is important for their department or head, they can work around the strategic meeting. So making attendance mandatory is very important for you to be there, and you send it ahead of time. So this way they prepare around that meeting. Second, limiting the number of participants. One of the biggest mistakes is you invite everybody. Don't. It's very, very important you invite the right people. And then request accurate data. Tell them, I need information on this chart, on this initiative. Make sure it is accurate, data backed. Review the data. Once you receive the data, you have to review the data. And I'll tell you why. Because you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions. In the review, you have to make decisions. And if the data is false and you make decisions, you are making false decisions. And then the last one, update the status of the indicators. What does it mean? The KPIs that you discuss, okay, you have to update them based on the information you're gathering. Of course, of course. So now, moving on. In the next slide, what I like to talk about is how do you make it mandatory? Well, it is necessary. You draft a proper email from the leadership or for the leadership, and you let them send it themselves, or you send it on their behalf. And this is where leadership commitment comes in. They are sending it, they're playing a role. And then of course, it is the strategic review without the right people in place, okay, it's just an expensive waste of time. So that is, by sending it from the top guy, you're making it mandatory for them to attend. Then limiting the number of participants, make sure that you have the right numbers, as we said before, okay? Then of course, you have to make sure request data accurately, as we mentioned before. You know, if people send information late, don't tell them it's okay. This is a strategic meeting. You're making decisions. Let them understand that it's very important that they send the data on time. And the data has to be accurate, especially if they are the owners of the data. And then, of course, as we mentioned before, review the data. Data has to be consistent. They have to speak the charts. You cannot have a chart saying something and the data saying something. You know, it's not good. And then, of course, you have updating the status indicators. Once you have that meeting and everything, you have to update. Do we go up? Do we go down? What percentage? You have to make sure that you have the right colors. Green means that we're moving forward. Yellow means that we are, you know, there's something off plan. We need to fix it very quickly. That means that it's something urgent. We need to fix it right away. And this is what we see today. Lots of KPIs and indicators are flying all over the place, and people are trying to fix what's going on. The last but not least is you have to prepare a report. In that report, you have to include data analysis, stats indicators, so that people know I have attended this meeting and now I know where I am, so that you are better prepared to drive the company better and prepared for the next meeting. So creating the agenda, whenever you want to create the agenda, it's very important you develop a very good agenda. And the focus should be on making decisions, my dear friends. I repeat, the focus should be on making decisions, not to chat and discuss. Because in the operations meeting, okay, you know, should be separate from the strategy meeting. You are talking strategy here. You're going to make decisions, change direction. Operations day to day, you can have another meeting for that. And then notice the last one here. Before adding an item, make sure it is of value. Never add an item that is not of value. The reason the strategic meetings are called strategic is because anything you talk about adds value to the organization, to the direction of the company. Okay? In addition to that, I will share with you some additional stuff. To help you choose the topics, always ask the following questions. Why are we holding this meeting? You see how powerful these questions are. What do we want to accomplish by the end of strategic review? And what are the key issues we need to cover? So if you answer these questions, you are making your life very, very easy to run the strategic review. And what's interesting about it, anything that falls outside these questions, it becomes irrelevant, or maybe can wait for till later. Here's an example of something I like to share with you. This is very, very nice. So annual business agenda. So whenever you have a strategic agenda that you like to drive, first of all, you have to have the welcoming notes, right? So the welcoming notes, the guidelines for the strategic review, the review from last year, or from last meeting, what have we done? So this is a strategic review for an annual meeting, as you can see. But you can run this one on a quarterly basis. You know, the core business areas, how are we doing? How's the vision doing? How are we doing on strategic analysis session? What do we need to do in terms of team exercises? All of these things. You can run some exercises here where people are engaged. You can look at your KPIs, you can look at the stakeholders mapping, you can look at the objectives, you can look at other business items, and then of course you can wrap up the meeting. Look how beautiful that is. And now you tell me you cannot have results out of this meeting? I don't believe it. Once you have such a structure in place, you know, you should be able to run with these things. And yes, you should have a scorecard. Typically what happens is that, as Ali said, typically what happens, you have the scorecard there, managing, looking at the different key objectives that you're running. So thank you, Ali, for pointing that out. Now, that being said, I'd like to take you to getting everyone ready. This means that consider presenting and talking through the material with the leadership. The first set of individuals you need to get ready in the mindset are the leaders themselves. Because if they don't take it seriously, they will never be serious. So you prepare them, you get them ready, you know, as they say, they psych them up for it. Because it's very important they come prepared for this meeting, because some decisions are going to take place. This means that you'll need to prep the leadership effectively. You want, how to meet to be the meeting to be successful. You have to provide the material ahead of time for everybody so that they become familiar with it. You don't want them to read during the meeting. You want them to make decisions during the meetings. At the same time, you send the recommendations. What does it mean? Look how beautiful that is. You can also send recommendations about certain things. It doesn't mean that they have to make decisions there and then. You tell them about, we are thinking about this one, and we recommend the following items. This means that when they come to the meeting, they are better prepared to make faster decisions. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's a green zone, green area. You don't want to set the tone to make decisions because you want you call it brainstorming to take place. But if you know that there are certain decisions to be made, send them the recommendation. This way they come and they make a decision very fast, and you use your time much better. Now, so when you are driving a strategic review, you have to focus on the following factors. They are essential for the successful strategic review. First of all, informing. Make sure the tone is right. The tone has to be trustworthy, positive. And the last one, decision making. As I said over and over again, you're not there to chat. You're there to get informed, the tone of the meeting, and make decisions so that you can move forward. This is very critical. So when we're informing, we tell them where we are, the status quo. We cover the expectations, we cover the key issues, the topics, we cover certain strategic areas. If some operations are strategic, you cover it. And at the end of the day, you also make sure that there's ownership and accountability. That's informing. But on the other side, when it comes to the tone, it should be that of trust and collaboration. Everybody should leave that room knowing they have to work together to be successful. So that's a very important tone. And then you have the third one, decision making. Out of all of that, you have to make some decisions. And the CEO and his team, he or she, they have to make the right decisions so that they can move things forward. So that being said, I like to remind you that whenever you have a meeting of such, you should have the right logistics. Sometimes it is in this format. You need to have a proper conference room. Sometimes you make sure that the support logistics are there, food, whatever. Sometimes it has to be clean and you have all the necessary material to talk. And today, today with all of these online meetings taking place, you have to have the technology, you have to have the infrastructure in place, you have to have the speed, proper speed, because sometimes in a meeting you may have up to 15, 20 people talking at the same time. So this is very important. Now, that being said, conference and meeting logistics are very important. You have to make sure that you cover the following: agenda planning, refreshment selection, multimedia equipment, speakers, promotion and communication, site selection, where we're going to meet in case it is a physical meeting. You might meet on site where the construction is taking place, where the web development is taking place. Technical support in the warehouse could be travel coordination. Remember, if when we go back to travel again, some people are going to travel, hotels here and there. Okay, so all of these things are important. Please don't underestimate that. The other thing that I'd like to talk to you is whenever you also look at the logistics, look at the material development, the vendor management, the people that were going to cater for you, provide you with material, provide you with stuff, to provide you with catering, all of that. These are vendors who are going to help you out. Sometimes you have the technical team to help you solve the problems. If you have your IT team has to be ready to help you solve the technical issues. And then, of course, participant promotion and communication. Why do I mention that one? Because it's very critical you have the right message in place. And then don't forget the legal and financial management. Because when you're taking decisions, you may want to look to your legal team or financial team, can we do it? So they take it as an action item. And then, of course, the wrap up of the meeting and everything. So let me go now to the fourth objective, the strategic review event itself. So now I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready for my fourth question? So here we go. In my fourth question, I ask, during the strategic review event, one should not encourage candid, open dialogue and critique. True or false? Now I'm going to go to my set of questions. I'm going to display that questions for you. And let me see how many of you are going to get this one right. So here we go. Let me see. Very good. Thank you. I see some people already moving in, jumping in with some questions. Okay. So during the strategic review event, One should not encourage candid open critique. All right, we have a few questions. I'm going to share with you the results. So again, to all my friends, thank you so much for taking the time. Well done. Thank you for being with us. All right. So I'm going to stop the voting in a couple of seconds. I want to make sure I give everybody a chance. And here we go. So here we go. And I'm going to share the results with you. Well, to those of you who said true or false, I'm going to share with you the answer. During the strategic review event, one should not encourage. Come on. Come on, you should encourage. You should encourage. So it's definitely false. You should encourage open dialogue, because by open dialogue, you make decisions. You make the right decisions. You tackle issues. You solve problems. So I want to thank you for participating. Here we go. I'm going to stop the sharing, close the slide. I'm going to go now into this one. So now I'm going to move a little bit faster. In the meeting itself, the strategic review event is very, very special. However, there are certain outcomes of the event that you have to watch out for to make it successful. One of the key things is, how do you encourage a candid dialogue? You are there to make decisions. You are there to discuss tough issues. You are not there to put things under the carpet. You are there to bring out the issues and resolve them right there and then. And you have to take notes of everything that's being discussed. Otherwise, the meeting will not be productive. On top of that as well, it's important that you use your participant time wisely. Okay? And make sure that you keep everyone to the task you have given them. And then, of course, use the agenda that you created. That's very important. The agenda is your guide. So when you say we're going to discuss this item for 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, stick to the agenda. It's very important you do that. And then, of course, there are certain items that will come up. You put them off topic. This means, guys, we cannot discuss this one. It's not part of the agenda. Let's put it off topic. This means that you put it in the parking lot. Not the parking lot physically. You can create a small piece of paper on a wall, and you can call it the parking lot, where you can park issues that you cannot discuss, so that you can discuss them next time. And on top of that, the following facilitation techniques can help you get the best out of your meeting. You start the meeting on time. This is very critical. Make sure that the CEO inform, excite, empower, involve. Look how beautiful that is. Always confirm the agenda. Review the ground rules. Review the parking boards, and make sure that the introductions, if needed, are done properly. So that is why these 6 items are loved. These are critical in making the event itself a success. I love the IEEI, huh? You notice that the IEEI is very important. The CEO message has to be to inform, to excite, to empower, to involve. This is beautiful. So people want to put a positive spin on things, okay? And they don't want to talk about negative issues. Now that could be a mistake. In that meeting, the good things have to come out, but also the subjects have to be discussed. And make sure that you keep the meeting appropriate in times. Use bullet formatting. Don't just write things up, and use the facilitation technique. This one, my dear friends, is very critical. Facilitation is one of the most important skills that you will need in a meeting. Communication, writing, all of things, but facilitation, I tell you, that one is critical. In addition to that one, have a parking lot, as we said. Stick to the agenda as much as possible. I mean, if you are late by 5 minutes, it's okay. But if you don't start on time, that's an issue. Promote candid dialogue between your different members so that they know how important that is. Someone should always be jotting things down. That's what we call taking notes and minutes of the meeting, because lots of things are being discussed. So that's why you keep track of things and the actions and the responsibilities that are going to be get generated out of this meeting. So this means that there are 2 types of action items: those who are already approved by the leadership, and those who are potential action items to be identified in the future. So this means that the leadership has approved an action item there in the meeting. For example, I might say, Azza, I would like you to do this. It's approved. However, there are certain items I cannot assign yet. I cannot discuss. We cannot discuss. So we might discuss it in the future and say, this is an important item to discuss in the next meeting. So this is why you have to stay on track. and you have to make sure that the meeting doesn't get delayed. And unfortunately, the derailing could happen because of the facilitator himself or herself, or because of other people in the meeting. That's normal, but you have to be very, very important. You keep your pulse on things. Always keep a pulse on what's going on. Are you going to make a decision now, or are you going to have separate meetings? Is this something we should ask a smaller team to take care of? There are some difficult decisions. Could it be worthwhile to spending more time on it? You see, sometimes you may have to spend more time on a difficult issue because it's critical to your operations. So always, we call it check the pulse. Check the pulse of the meeting. So if you know your leadership teams gets distracted regularly, try to start the first meeting with some questions. What typically delays this meeting? You see, now you think that people are not gonna pay attention. And you know what? Today distractions are so many. Enough we have the phone with us, enough we have people calling us. So one of the key things you may have to ask, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please have your phones on silent, or please park your phone in your office and come prepared to the meeting, because there's nothing more important than strategic review right now. So what derails the meeting? Some people have short span of attention. Some people like to chat with others. So you have to put a control that one. And how can we prevent that during the meeting? So that's very important, right? So this is why, okay, it's very important that to ensure the success of the meeting, always have the right people there. Stay away from, time consuming preparation. Sometimes we over prepare, so it may not be enough. And then make sure that you don't get wrapped up in the bigger picture so much that you forget other items of the meeting. And always make sure that you follow up as well, okay? Always follow up. So that being said, it's very important that, remember that there are roadblocks for the strategic review, okay? And unfortunately, they will happen. Okay, but it is important that you manage to turn around. You as a facilitator, you should be able to have the ability to steer the meeting in one way or another, and make sure that there are certain topics or talking events that are parked on the side so that they don't take and consume your agenda. Remember, you are there to make some certain decisions. One of the roadblocks is unengaged leadership, poor data, improper balance between intermediate outcomes and measures and output measures, time-consuming preparations, no follow-ups, and no valuable discussion. So these by itself, they are some of the interesting stuff that derail your meeting and are important roadblocks. At the same time, you have some interesting behavior that that could push your meeting in a direction that you don't want. One is that there are certain personalities and behavior that make things very interesting. One is complexity. Okay, people are complex. They go into complex issues. They discuss complex issues. They like complexity. Some people are siloed. They go to the meeting. They want to discuss only their issues. They don't see the bigger picture. Doubting numbers. Some people, they don't like the numbers. They always question the numbers. Some people forget. Have you done this? No, I have not done it. You see what happens in a meeting? So you always have people who come with different personalities. And you have to manage these personalities. People who like to talk always complex issues and they like to complicate matters. People who can only cannot think beyond their department. People who always doubt numbers. People who forget. These are always there in every meeting, and we might be one of these individuals. So you have to be aware of who you are and how you behave. The last and final module that I like to talk about is strategic review follow-ups. It's very important, and we're coming up to the end of the meeting, my dear friends. So I want to thank you for being patient and staying with me a little bit more than the hour I promised. So my apologies for that. Here comes the question. People, not technology, is the key to a successful learning organization. True or false? Let me see. Now, and I'm going to put that question up there. I'm going to put the poll there. Let me see. What do you think? Is it technology that helps with the strategic review and the learning of the organization? Or is it technology at the end of the day? Let's check. Because the strategic review is a very important event. I see some interesting input here, so I want to thank all of you for that. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Strong participation. All right. I'll give everybody 2 more seconds in case they are on their phone. Okay. So here we go. Now, oh, well done. I'm going to start ending the voting right now. And now I'm going to share the data. So I want to thank you all. Well done. Very, very good. I'm proud of you. Yes, it is people, not technology, that leads to a strong learning organization, especially in the strategic reviews. In strategic reviews, it's a learning moment. And it's not the technology that's going to make you better. It's actually much, much more than that. So the follow-up, you cannot just walk away when a strategy review meeting is over. You just can't walk away. You have many action items that you have to take with you. You have learned a lot, you have discovered a lot. So now it is time to follow up with people, especially because of decisions that were made. This means that wrapping up the strategic review, okay, doesn't mean that the work is done. There's work to take place, following up on initiatives, activities, direction. So in order for the strategic review to be successful, you have to have some follow-ups after that. This means that, number one, it's important to distribute the notes to the meeting attendees within 24 hours of the meeting. Every moment that passes by after 24 hours, people start forgetting and they get less engaged. Number two, make sure you're communicating with everyone necessary, depending on the meeting and the content. So it's very important that you communicate and you follow up with them. Remember, number three is next, set up a process for tracking action items and due dates. You have to have in your agenda, your schedule, a spreadsheet, whatever. And with today, we have so many apps that can help you follow up with people. Make sure that you have these things in place. Number four, finally, at the start of the subsequent review meeting, make sure that you review what has been tasked to everybody. So when you ask people to do something, at the beginning of the next meeting, you say, what have we done? Have we finished it? Why haven't we done it? What are the issues we're facing? Why has it been successful? This is very important. So these 4 points are critical. This means that, remember, use the meeting to reassess your performance measures. Which measures are working well and should be kept? Which measures should be dropped? Sometimes there are measures that you keep in the organization and they are just a waste of time. So drop them. You don't need them. You have to take care of the KPIs. So that's why, to make sure that targets are not constantly changing, because sometimes what happens is that you put target in a place and then you change the targets a lot during the year. That's a problem. So it's very important that you have a process in place that the targets, you as much as possible, you stick to the target. If there are some changes, the changes are minor. This means that you're doing very well. But if I give you a target and I tell you, go ahead and deliver it, and I keep changing the target for you, you will never deliver it. You will feel frustrated. So that's why the strategic review is a moment where we ask ourselves, did we put the right targets? Do we have the right objectives? Why are we changing so much? If we are changing a lot and your KPIs keep changing, this means that your strategy is not doing its job. That's why the strategic review is a moment for you to reflect on these things. But remember the burden. Strategic review should not become a burden. It should be lightweight. That is why it's important that you always prepared. Okay, make sure it is part of that culture. Make sure that the strategic review is a part of the culture. It should be part of the culture of the company. Keep the meetings relevant and leadership engaged. Okay, it's a process. Make it part of your company now. And last but not least, make sure that your decisions get made in the strategic review, identify the lessons learned, but you also need to generate understanding and understanding of the process and make sure that you get the buy-in. So to make sure that the process is repeatable, make sure that it's always taking place. Give people access to information. You know what happens sometimes is that you tell people, listen, I want you to attend the strategic review, and they ask for data. You don't give it to them. You shot yourself in the foot. If you want people to participate, give them necessary access to the data they need to work on. That's very critical. And then, of course, as we move on and start wrapping up, make sure that the following up these steps help streamline the strategic review. What it means: ensure a timeline, automate the data request, use technology, allow visibility between meetings, don't allow leadership to miss meetings, ensure you have a clean history of meetings, actions. And this means that every time you attend a meeting, you should not have a big agenda of things that were not done. Try to finish them this way that you feel that I have done a lot. And always check the value. You see that word over there? That's one of my favorite words. At the end, I like to leave you with something. Here are some material that you can read: Strategic Meetings Management Handbook. This is by Kevin. Iwamoto and Debbie Scholar. Also, strategic meetings management, very interesting review by the same lady, Debbie Scholar as well. Death by Meeting, I tell you, Patrick Lencioni, one of the best writers when it comes to corporate life and work life. He's a very good writer. And then Manager's Guide to Effective Meetings, time management, all of us need it. And Evernote is a very nice tool that you can use in order to try things. With that said, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with me and with Meirc during this hour or more. And I hope that you found it worthwhile. I hope you learned a lot. And here's my promise. I'm going to keep my promise. Here's my name. Here's the email. If you're interested in the slides, please send me an email, jsaeed@meirc.com. Make sure you visit our website. Our website reflects now the latest introduction of online learning and self-learning. Excellent agenda. And we want to be part of your future and your development, ladies and gentlemen. And then also check me on LinkedIn. I'm available on LinkedIn if you like to be part of my network. I'll be honored. You can read the articles I write, as well as you can access to other people that you might be interested in joining. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the afternoon wherever you are. Please stay safe. Please come back healthy, and God bless you, and take care. Bye-bye.
Meirc.com